Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar organized by the California State University San Bernardino College of Education through the Watson and Associates Literacy Center at CSUSB. On March 19, 2020, an executive order from the governor of California required every California resident to stay sheltered in place as a result of COVID-19 pandemic that has spread across California communities. Residents were to leave their homes only to get essential household needs, or if they fall within the category of essential workers. With the shutdown came the need for us in education to continue to provide learning to our students. Both higher education and the K-12 schools scrambled to deliver online learning. School districts quickly began to give away computers and other technology tools to help students access their learning experiences remotely from their homes. Teachers had to learn how to continue to deliver instruction online. Many school districts tried to connect with parents, but not all were very effective in reaching the parents and providing support for them on how to help their students. Over the months, many parents have struggled to balance the demands of work from home life, and playing the role of teacher for their children who are now learning from home. We have experienced that with our faculty and staff members at CSUSB. To that effect, we have developed this webinar as our way of providing you with the needed support to continue to help your children so they can thrive and learn despite the challenges of COVID-19 and the learning virtual environment. It is our hope that you will find today's webinar helpful as you continue to navigate the challenge of being parents as well as teachers for your children during this challenging time. Thank you for responding to our invitation and for joining us today for this webinar. Let me also welcome Mr. Ted Alejandro, the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. Mr. Alejandro is a distinguished educator whose contributions to the Inland Empire has spanned decades. A strong advocate for educational opportunities for all children, and a highly celebrated CSUSB alumnus. Mr. Alejandro is here today to show his support to you as parents from the region and to speak to you from his heart about his desire to see you and your students succeed. Let me invite Mr. Alejandro to just say a few words to the parents as we start today.
Thank you, Dr. Donwachuka. It's just a pleasure to be here to give this welcome to all the parents that are online today in this very important and special webinar. And I also like to thank all the staff and team members for Cal State. They're phenomenal professionals that really collaborate with our school districts and superintendents and teachers to really promote education in the K-12 system and beyond. So it's grateful to have that collaboration with all of your professionals at Cal State. And then also just like to thank Jim and Judy Watson. In the background, you have the Watson and Associates Literacy Center. And I'll tell you, Jim and Judy Watson have been absolutely incredible in their support for education, not just in San Bernardino County, but throughout the Inland Empire. It's just really an honor to work with them, and we're so thankful for what they do for our students and our system. You know, San Bernardino County, we have 33 school districts, over 400,000 students. And if you go back just to March when this pandemic started, in terms of us having to close down schools, we thought it would be for just a few weeks. Then it turned into a few months, and all of our districts really try to keep the end of the year open to celebrate graduations and student events. And then we realized because of the rising numbers of positivity of COVID in our state that we were going to have to keep the schools physically closed for the rest of the year. And then even as we began school this fall. And so what we've tried to do with our school districts is really promote collaborative environment of sharing best practices and utilizing the best resources to engage students in the home environment. From the very beginning, we posted on the front page of our website at county schools a resource center, a resource hub for parents and for others. And I just encourage parents to go to that hub because some of the best resources to support your children at home are located there at no charge because of the efforts of so many individuals that have tried to collaborate to provide these resources. Our teachers have been through numbers of training. We have a digital learning team at county schools that promotes professional development so that teachers really can understand how to utilize technology platforms to engage students. Many of them have never been in this environment in terms of reaching students, and it's a challenge to do so for a full productive day. And so they're learning how to best construct the day and lesson plans in a way to keep students engaged and for them to become aggressive in their own learning approaches to really master the concepts that are important at their grade level. We have many teachers that are promoting the use of telecast options, such as our partnership with KVCR, where all of the daytime broadcasting for PBS at our KVCR location is tailored towards K-12 standards. So we encourage you to go to our website, you can see the programming, and then not just the programming, but the lesson plans that build from those programs to really extend learning in so many different ways. Content experts at county schools and throughout our county have collaborated to provide that additional reinforcement to students so they can have that experience. And we've learned from our involvement with the California Collaborative on Educational Excellence on really how to lead cohorts of districts across the state, as our lead engagement at county schools is working in San Diego and the Bay Area and Central California to build cohorts to really support parents. At our county office, we have 2 parent engagement specialists that have reached out to all of our 33 districts to help our districts build parent involvement during this environment. You know, every single district has to have what's called an LCAP, a local control accountability plan, that includes a parent engagement component. So I would encourage you to go to your district's website, go to our website, and look to see what the districts have established in terms of building parent involvement. And this year specifically, there's a continuity of learning plan that districts have developed in coordination with stakeholder engagement so they can have even more focus on this environment as they try to reach out to students. The state has implemented accountability factors, encouraging districts to promote attendance and reach out to those students that aren't online so they can really engage students. And then also to work with the county offices and state departments to, again, master some of the key elements of effective online instruction. And while that's happening, we're also trying to bring students physically back. We had Lucerne Valley, one of our first districts, get a state waiver and brought back small cohorts of students. And since then, we've had about 50 waivers across the county be approved through county public health and the Department of Public Health at the state level. And more so, we have many districts that are looking at small group cohorts where you don't need a waiver. Right now, we have to have a waiver because we're in purple in our county, but you don't have to have a waiver for small group instruction. Many districts are doing that to bring students in, to plan to bring students in to provide that one-to-one support. So this is a team effort, all of us partnering and working together. And Cal State has just been a huge resource, the College of Education, in that endeavor. And we look forward to continuing that partnership so that we don't have students be left out and we can continue to promote strong educational practices even in this COVID environment. So Dr. Chimwook, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Thank you for your support. And we look forward to, again, working with you and our partners across San Bernardino and Riverside County.
Thank you so much, Ted. We appreciate you and we appreciate what the county is doing. Thank you for being here. Let me introduce our next person, Robert Nava, Cal State San Bernardino Vice President for Advancement, who has been very instrumental in helping steer the direction of this webinar. Thank you so much for your contribution, Robert. Robert will be introducing our special guest of honor for the event, the Watsons. Robert.
Thank you, Dean, and good afternoon, everyone. I do have the special honor this afternoon of introducing 2 very special friends of the university and also of the Inland Empire, Judy and Jim Watson. Since 2003, Judy and Jim have been generous donors and advocates for the university. They established the Watson Literacy Center that is based in our College of Education, which provides the tools and the resources to our families in the community. And the webinar this afternoon is just one example of the creative things that the Watson Literacy Center does to engage parents and students and children in learning. In addition to their long support for the university and our community, the Watsons also have been very dynamic and generous benefactors of public art in the city of San Bernardino. Jim was instrumental in partnering with the city of San Bernardino to display CSUSB student art citywide. They also have supported the university's Coyote Conservatory, a performance art outreach project led by the university's theater arts department. I also want to add to our parents and to our friends, you know, Jim and Judy Watson also are lifelong learners. And in 2010, and then in 2015, Jim and Judy were recognized and were awarded the Cal State University System's highest honor, and that is the honorary degree, the Doctor of Humane Letters. So we really should refer to Jim and Judy as doctors, Dr. Jim and Dr. Judy. Let me just say a few words about Judy. Judy serves as the co-president of J.R. Watson and Associates Development Corporation. And she's, as I mentioned, an ardent supporter and advocate of education and the arts. Judy was born and raised in Los Angeles, but her connection to the Latino culture was nurtured early in her childhood. Judy went on to the university where she received her bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of California, Irvine. Jim is the president and CEO of Watson and Associates. And I'll also add that Jim was the former chairman of the board of directors for the CSUSB Philanthropic Foundation. Jim is a graduate of San Jose State University. And in 1972, being an entrepreneur, Jim started his own company. Since its inception, Watson and Associates has focused on high quality community sensitive development, mixed use, residential, retail, and office complexes exceeding over $1 billion in market value, with more than 35 developments in California, Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. J.R. Watson and Associates, they pride themselves on developing projects that set new and high standards for the community. And I'll also add that Watson and Associates developed a beautiful housing project right across the street from the university called the Glen, mixed use with wonderful restaurants and wonderful living for students and community members. So everyone, please join me in welcoming our two great friends and dynamic leaders, Jim and Judy Watson, who will provide comments. Jim?
Thank you. Thank you for your very gracious introduction, Robert. It's very humbling. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Many things are essential in life, but other than food, water, and air to breathe, nothing is more important than educating our family and our children. Studies have shown a child's educational success before the third grade is a predictor of how well a student will do in life. I had my share of challenges as a young child. Because of early intervention, I was very fortunate. More than 70% of today's youth do not meet new state standards in English language, arts, and literacy. Combine these challenges with a global epidemic that forces many parents to figure out how to manage home life, be adequate in the workplace, and have oversight for their children's daily educational activities. it is daunting at best. My wife and I not only understand the importance of education, but collectively, we must also juggle the complexity of distance learning. With this in mind, we are hopeful the academic experts you'll hear from today will provide practical advice, making this a pivot to online learning a bit easier without compromising your child's academic excellence. We wish you the very best good fortune in achieving your educational goals. Judy?
Yes. Hello, welcome everybody. It's an honor to be here. And Robert, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I feel very honored. Thank you. Jim and I are delighted to have joined you for this webinar. The tools and advice provided will not only help you navigate the challenges of managing your child's academic workload while at home, but will make life a bit easier for you as well. Education makes such a difference in the lives of everyone, and Jim and I are living testimony to that. Our parents did not go to college. I struggled in my formative years with a reading disorder as dyslexic, and I didn't get diagnosed until I was in my 20s. That's why particularly the Tools for Education, the Watson Literacy Center, is so dear to my heart, because I wish I could have had that wonderful program. I struggled much and with this reading disorder, and Jim comes with us as well with single parents, a disadvantaged background. Despite these hurdles, we were fortunate to work hard in the classroom, and with the support of our teachers and family, we are able to change the narrative. We want you to know that you are not alone in this journey as parents. Everyone is having difficulty meeting a variety of expectations in their lives. Therefore, we are here for you in this unprecedented time in our world. Distance learning can be nebulous early on, but we believe that you will receive help. You will receive the help you need for your child's ongoing academic success during this pandemic. Thank you for the honor of speaking and being a part of this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim and Judy, for your continuous contribution to CSUSB, to our college, and to the Watson Literacy Center. Once again, we're so appreciative of what you do with us. I'm going to now introduce the leaders for the day. We're going to start with the technology session, as I invite Tracy Medrano, who is an IT person from CSUSB, and Bill Cloplin, Director of Technology at Victor Valley Unified School District. Please, Tracy and Bill, over to you.
Thank you, Dean. Welcome and thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really excited to be here. We've got a lot of great information in store for you, a lot of great presentations today. We're going to get started with the digital technology segment of today's event. If at any time during the presentation you have any questions, I just want to let you know that the chat feature is open. So please feel free to type any questions you have via the chat feature. At the end of all presentations today, we're going to open up the webinar to a Q&A session where we'll take questions from the audience, and we'll also help answer any questions that may have been coming in through the chat. I think you're muted, Dr. Romano.
Sorry, lo siento, disculpe. Bienvenidos, mi nombre es Jacqueline Romano y yo soy doctora en educación y voy a hacer la interpretación de traducción de Tracy y el señor B. Copling. Gracias otra vez por reunirse a este webinar y vamos a empezar este evento que se llama tecnología digital. Si en cualquier de este momento durante la presentación tiene usted alguna pregunta, por favor no dude en utilizar la cajita donde dice chat para escribir sus preguntas. Al final de la sesión vamos a abrirlo con todos los participantes para poder responder a sus preguntas y a las preguntas que se han publicado en el chat.
Thank you. So really quickly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Tracy Medrano, and I'm an instructional designer at Cal State San Bernardino. I've been designing online courses for about 13 years already. I'm also a certified course reviewer through the Quality Assurance Program, Quality Matters, and the Chancellor's Office Quality Assurance Program. I'm also a full-time working parent of 2 young children, so I do have my hands full, and I'm also struggling through this virtual learning environment with children of my own. I've got a small one in 3rd grade, and I've got an older one in 8th grade, so I can relate to a lot of the challenges that are going on. Joining me today is a friend and a colleague who is going to go ahead and introduce himself and get us started.
Thank you, Tracy. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Klopping. I'm the Director of Technology for Victor Elementary School District in Victorville. I oversee the technology department, and it's my responsibility to ensure my district is providing the technology and support to our students and families. I have 2 teenagers in high school, and my wife is a 6th grade science teacher. You could say I'm surrounded by distance learning.
Brevemente les voy a presentar a la señorita Tracy Medrano. La señorita Medrano es una diseñadora de instrucción en la Universidad Estatal de California en San Bernardino. Ella ha diseñado cursos en línea por más de 13 años. También es una madre de tiempo completo y tiene 2 hijos pequeños que están también aprendiendo en este entorno virtual. Ella les presentó al señor B. Coplin y entre el señor B. Coplin y Tracy van a hacer las siguientes presentaciones. El señor Bill Coplin es el director de tecnología del Distrito Escolar Victor en Victorville. Él supervisa el Departamento de Tecnología y está bajo su responsabilidad el asegurarse que su escuela y en su distrito se proporcione toda la tecnología y el apoyo necesario para los estudiantes y las familias. Él también, como padre de familia, tiene a 2 adolescentes en la escuela, a su esposa que es maestra de primaria de 6º año, que enseña ciencias, y él piensa que está rodeado de un aprendizaje a distancia todo el día. Bill?
Thank you. So we have broken our presentation into 3 parts. We'll start with an overview of being a parent of virtual learners in our current distance learning environment. We will then transition into some of the technologies that we are using and seeing in this new learning environment. And we'll wrap it up with discussing a few of the technical issues and some ways to work through and around them.
Hemos dividido esta presentación en 3 partes. Vamos a comenzar con lo que significa el ser padres de estudiantes aprendiendo en un ambiente virtual a distancia. También seguiremos con una descripción de lo que son las herramientas tecnológicas que se están utilizando y también lo que se está viendo dentro del salón de clase. Terminaremos discutiendo algunas de las cuestiones técnicas y las maneras de resolver los problemas técnicos más comunes.
All right, let's start with talking about some of the challenges Tracy and I have experienced during the last 6 months as parents.
Bueno, vamos a comenzar para darles a saber que nosotros como padres también hemos experimentado en los últimos 6 meses muchos retos con nuestros hijos.
So these bullet items come from our personal experiences. Although not completely tech related, they are distractions that happen which we need to consider with distance learning. Discussing these distractions with your student is the first step in promoting a positive learning environment. Make sure that you're checking in and keeping the communication open with your students' teachers.
Esta lista que ustedes ven proviene de las experiencias personales como padres de familia. Aunque en esta lista no está todo relacionado con la tecnología, son distracciones que ocurren y que tenemos que considerar ah, cuando estemos haciendo el aprendizaje a distancia. Para discutir estas distracciones con su estudiante es muy importante, ya que tenemos que mantener la atención de los estudiantes y promover un ambiente de aprendizaje positivo. Hay que asegurarnos de verificar y mantener la comunicación abierta con nuestros estudiantes y con los maestros de nuestros hijos.
So as parents, we really serve the role right now as a coach. We're helping our children and guiding them through the many challenges of virtual learning. So really the big idea here is that with our children, regardless of age, they're in their home environment. And so because they're in their home environment, they're surrounded by a lot of different distractions, pets, parents talking, visitors at the door, maybe some construction going on. So we really need to help guide our children a little bit more throughout this online environment. So here are some tips just for parents to help our students stay connected with their teachers. Instead of waiting for a parent-teacher conference, connect with your child's teacher by text, email, call, or video chat. And these are things that I've actually been doing myself that I have found extremely helpful with both of my children. Be involved with your children's education. Ask them questions about their assignments, understand their assignments, their homework, their goals, what their teachers are expecting of them. Also check your Guardian accounts weekly. For me, I do it almost daily. And we'll talk about how you can do that. But review grades, parent-teacher communication, as well as their course progress.
Como padres, somos más que nada como los entrenadores de nuestros hijos. Nosotros ayudamos a ellos y los guiamos a la misma vez a través de los muchos desafíos que se encuentran en el aprendizaje virtual. La idea general es que nuestros hijos, independientemente de la edad que ellos tengan, tienen muchas distracciones alrededor de la casa y en este ámbito del hogar, las distracciones limitan la concentración de nuestros estudiantes. Es bien importante mantenerse conectado con el maestro de sus hijos. ¿Y por qué esperar a hacer una conferencia con el maestro si hay una necesidad más pronta? Conectarse con el maestro de su hijo por mensajes de texto, el correo electrónico o haciendo llamadas por teléfonos o de videochat son muy importantes. Es importante mantenerse informado de todo lo que está pasando en el salón de clase. Participe de esta forma en la educación de sus hijos. Haga preguntas para entender de qué se tratan las tareas, cómo se deben de hacer los trabajos y cuáles son las metas. También revise la cuenta de acceso como padre de familia que usted tiene y hágalo semanalmente. Revise las calificaciones de sus hijos, comunicaciones que se encuentren con otros padres y maestros y también para monitorear el progreso del curso.
Great, thank you. So let's go ahead and let's jump into and start talking about the technology.
A continuación, hablaremos sobre la tecnología.
So let's begin here quickly just by understanding the learning management system. Just so that you know, a learning management system is a platform used to deliver content and track learning progress and so much more. Really, the learning management system is serving the purpose of the virtual classroom. So there's a wide range of learning management systems. For example, your child's school might be using Moodle, Canvas, Google Classroom, or some other type of platform. For the purpose of today's presentation, we're going to quickly look at some navigational features in Google Classroom and Canvas, which seem to be the most primarily used within our regional areas. And we're going to go ahead and talk about those two.
Entonces, comencemos por entender el sistema de gestión de aprendizaje. Los sistemas de gestión de aprendizaje se utilizan para ofrecer el contenido, realizar un seguimiento del progreso del aprendizaje y aprender a navegar y a mantener una rutina dentro de estas plataformas. Estas plataformas también ayudan a que usted pueda entender los sistemas que las escuelas están usando alrededor de nuestra área. Por ejemplo, hay escuelas o distritos que utilizan el Moodle, ya sea Canvas o el Google Classroom o alguna otra plataforma, pero esas son las más comunes. Vamos a ver rápidamente algunas funciones de navegación del Google Classroom y de Canvas.
So some navigational features here of Google Classroom, I just want to cover that have been a complete lifesaver. Both my kids are using Google Classroom at this time. So you'll notice the top navigational bar across the top of the screen where it says Stream, Classwork, and People. If you just look at classwork there, by clicking on Classroom, your child is going to access all of their coursework. And so this is the area where your child is going to be spending most of their time when they're logging in. They can also access from classwork their virtual class meet. But you'll see there that there's also a section that says view your work. And then along the left-hand side, you'll see some icons that indicate by color whether something has been turned in or it's still pending and still needs to be completed or needs some attention. So first, let's start with the view your work. View your work has been a lifesaver for me. If you go in there and you click on view your work, you can see all of the assignments that have been assigned by your child's teacher. Or any assignments that have been returned. So sometimes the teachers will return work to your child. Let's just say they got 10 points out of 100. They have an opportunity there to make some corrections and resubmit. So that's really a great place to go to. I spend a lot of time there constantly looking at what's been assigned, what's been turned in, and what's been returned. Then along the left-hand side, when you get into the actual coursework, you'll see the little bubbles, the gray and a blue one. The color may vary depending on the color scheme that your teacher has, your child's teacher has chosen. In this case, it's a blue, and when it's submitted, it turns gray. So the blue icon indicates that it still needs attention. When you click on that assignment, you go into an area that'll let you know how many points, assignment instructions, as well as any attachments that your child may need to open. And then there's a turn-in button. So one big area of caution here is that when students go into an assignment, if some kind of a form or document is attached, sometimes children believe that they open it and they close it, and that it's going to submit automatically because it's all within the Google Drive. But in fact, when they close it, they do need to click on the turn in button to let the teacher know. It sends a trigger to let the teacher know this in fact has been completed and turned in.
Bueno, ahora vamos a ver qué sugerencias hay para el Google Classroom. La navegación de Google Classroom está a lo largo de la parte superior, como se ve aquí en la pantalla. Es posible que usted vea las clases actualizadas, los recordatorios y las páginas de chat de las conversaciones en línea en general. El que sigue es una navegación, un sistema de navegación para hacer las tareas. En la parte superior hay una cajita donde tiene Classroom. Aquí es donde su hijo pasará la mayor parte del tiempo buscando tareas, haciendo tareas, entregando las tareas. Es también aquí donde él accederá a todos los cursos que esté tomando y entregará su trabajo a su maestro. Una gran ayuda que recomiendan es la selección donde diga ver el trabajo, que es la siguiente cajita al lado izquierdo de donde está el Classroom. En esta usted puede encontrarse todo lo que se necesita. Por ejemplo, si el estudiante ha devuelto o ha entregado la tarea, el maestro le ha devuelto la tarea para que la continúe o porque le haga falta algo. Usted también puede elegir ver todo el trabajo que se ha entregado. En particular, Es más fácil, así como a sus hijos les será fácil, el que establezcan una rutina de ámbito al checar todos los días qué es lo que hay en esa cajita, ver su trabajo. Es muy importante y ver qué es lo que se ha entregado ya calificado antes de que empiecen a hacer su tarea. Así que se devuelven los documentos que se necesitan con correcciones y pueden volver a hacerlo y volverlo a entregar para que puedan ganar sus puntos y sus calificaciones. También es algo que puede o no funcionar para usted, es el que se familiarice con el sistema, con la navegación y establecer una rutina, tal como lo que usted haría para una clase tradicional, ¿verdad? Ayudar a mejorar la experiencia de aprendizaje de su hijo. Si observa también en la parte baja al lado izquierdo de esta sección donde dice Wednesday Independence Practice, hay otra lista de iconos de diferentes colores, azul y grises. En estas son las tareas que están asignadas a su hijo. El color gris indica que la tarea se ha terminado y ya ha sido entregada y fue aceptada. El azul indica que la tarea necesita atención, no ha sido entregada aún. También es muy importante que presionemos o hagamos un clic en este listado con el icono azul para ver qué detalles se encuentran de la tarea en particular, qué es lo que hace falta y el botón de entrega que se debe presionar. En muchas ocasiones se supone que cada vez que se termine la tarea y se cierra el archivo, piensa el estudiante que ha sido enviado automáticamente y esto no sucede. Hay que asegurarnos que presionen presionen el botón que diga subir para enviar ese trabajo que ya está terminado y el maestro pueda calificárselo.
Thank you. So this right here, this is Canvas. You can see that this looks quite different than Google Classroom, but still serves the same purpose. It's the virtual classroom if your child's school is using Canvas. The navigation is also a little different. So to the far left is the course navigation link. And then there in the center is where you have the course content area. And then to the far right sidebar is where you will access announcements, reminders, and other course information.
Bueno, esta es la versión de Canvas, el sistema de gestión. En Canvas, también puede ver, aunque es diferente, puede ver todo lo que hay dentro del salón de clase, como el Google Classroom. Con Canvas encontrará varias barras de navegación global. A la izquierda se ve una barra en las cuales usted escoge el curso al que va a entrar y también a localizar el nombre del curso. Hace un clic o presione el enlace para acceder a este contenido. Después, en la parte de esta aparece el curso que va a seguir. A la izquierda del curso y hay enlaces de navegación. En el centro se encuentra el área de contenido o de las tareas o de los trabajos que se van a hacer. A la última, que es la derecha, también esta barra lateral puede tener anuncios, recordatorias u otro tipo de información que se relaciona al curso. Su hijo va a pasar la mayor parte del tiempo utilizando la barra izquierda donde se encuentran los enlaces que ven de color azul en la navegación y trabajar en el área de contenido.
And just a quick tip here, you can find a mobile app for both Google Classroom and Canvas to download. So as parents, you can log in with your child's credentials, keep an eye on assignments, work that has been turned in, grades, any class updates. This is especially convenient because you can do this anytime, anywhere on your mobile device. And I am frequently checking my child's Google Classroom through my mobile device, and I have found it to be extremely helpful.
Y bueno, hay aplicaciones que usted puede bajar a su teléfono, ¿verdad? La Google Classroom o el Canvas y puede entonces usted iniciar la sesión de aprendizaje con su hijo en donde quiera que se encuentre. Es recomendado descargar estas aplicaciones antes de usarlas y las credenciales de su hijo para mantener al tanto de todas las tareas. Ya sea trabajos entregados o calificaciones. También hay que ver qué actualizaciones hay dentro del salón de clase. Esto es muy práctico el tener este tipo de aplicaciones y porque sobre todo ayudan a acceder al contenido del salón de clase en cualquier momento y en cualquier lugar donde usted se encuentre y que tenga un acceso a un teléfono móvil.
So we just talked about the learning management system, and then within the learning management system, your child's teacher will often use a variety of tools to facilitate the learning. And so here you'll see some tools. These aren't all, but there's just a few tools here that are being used in education today.
Y bueno, vamos a las herramientas que se están viendo en esta pantalla. Son una de las más frecuentes que se utilizan dentro del salón de clase. Estos sistemas o estas herramientas de aprendizaje las encuentran ya sea en Google Classroom o en Canvas. Dentro de estos sistemas, los profesores, ya sea que añaden tareas, exámenes, son herramientas y programas que ayudan para el aprendizaje, facilitar el aprendizaje. Y pues esto es solamente una muestra de las herramientas que se encuentran y que muchos de los profesores o maestros están utilizando hoy en día.
And here are just some simple tips, but yet very helpful tips. So get in and use a tool. That's the best way to really become familiar with it, is just going in there and using it. Don't be afraid to poke around. If you are in need of more information or even some guided tutorials, you can Google it. Often there's so many things on Google. You can find either some YouTube videos or some how-to guides. But the best thing to really become familiar and comfortable with the tool is just to get in and use it.
Y bueno, estas son otras sugerencias que tengan usted, no tenga miedo a entrar y a utilizar las aplicaciones para familiarizarse, para saber lo que se está viendo dentro del salón de clase. Acceda a las tutorías que se dan dentro de las aplicaciones para saber cómo se manejan. Buscar también en la búsqueda de Google cómo utilizar las diferentes herramientas que están utilizando sus estudiantes en clase y no tengan miedo a navegar y a buscar el material dentro de línea.
So next we're going to talk about virtual meetings. There are a lot of different platforms for virtual meetings. These are just a few that you're seeing on screen, but we're going to go ahead and talk about that and give you some tips.
Y bueno, vamos ahora a hablar sobre las reuniones virtuales. Estas son otras aplicaciones, ¿verdad? Que hay para acceder al salón de clase y ponernos en conexión con nuestro maestro y nuestros compañeros. Estas reuniones o estas plataformas para reunirse son las más usadas, como el Zoom, el Google Meet o el Microsoft Teams. Hay otras más para hacer reuniones en vivo. Les puedo compartir que algunos consejos que ustedes podrán utilizar y que harán una gran diferencia al mejorar la experiencia de reuniones o de juntas en vivo.
So using a headphone, using a set of headphones makes a huge difference to your child. Being able to focus in the meeting and finding a quiet space is also extremely helpful. Cameras during a virtual meeting is like a window into your home. I get that, and I know that sometimes that can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be or feel so intrusive to your home space. I have my children turn on their cameras unless there's a really good reason why not to. If they don't turn on their cameras, I may find that they're not focusing, they're spinning around in their chairs, they're taking a nap. So really want to encourage our children to turn on their cameras. It really is a win-win-win. Your child's more likely to actively participate and remain engaged. Teachers build a better connection with their students and can gauge participation as well. And they can also make a connection with your child, and your child can make a connection with their classmates and their teacher. Parents know that their children are actually participating if they have their camera on. This also helps to build a sense of community, which is really important in today's time when our kids are missing out on that social aspect of their development and have started the school year without being able to put a face to the name or see their classmates. So I really do encourage you to encourage your children to turn on their cameras.
Bien, sugerencias para qué hacer dentro del contexto de en casa, estudiando en casa. El uso de auriculares se recomienda. Proveer auriculares a los estudiantes hace una gran diferencia para que puedan terminar sus tareas y poner atención, mantenerse concentrado en la sesión, y así de esa forma también encuentran un espacio tranquilo para poder concentrarse. Ahora, también tenemos la cámara que se va a usar durante la reunión virtual o durante el tiempo de la clase. Esto es como una ventana a su casa, pero no tiene que sentirse como una intrusión al espacio de su hogar. Yo les requiero a mis hijos que enciendan sus cámaras a menos de que haya una buena razón para cual no hacerlo. Hay que alentar a nuestros hijos a que mantengan la cámara prendida durante las sesiones, y es una ventaja, ¿verdad? Al mismo a que ellos van a ganar de muchas formas. Y lo que van a ganar y las ventajas es que si ellos tienen la cámara prendida, las probabilidades de que su hijo participe en las clases van a ser más altas y van a mantenerse activos, van a permanecer atentos y participando. Los maestros también establecen una mejor conexión con sus estudiantes y pueden ayudar al estudiante a participar. También, como padres, vamos a estar muy atentos al saber que nuestros hijos están participando. Entonces, son las ganancias. También es muy importante poder ayudar a construir un sentido de comunidad con los estudiantes y con el maestro. Y esto es muy importante en estos tiempos, ya que nuestros jóvenes dependen de la interacción con otros amigos y con el maestro. Cuando nuestros hijos están perdiendo ahorita ese espacio social y es parte de su desarrollo, entonces hay que hacer lo posible para que durante este año escolar les demos la oportunidad de conectarnos, ya sea virtualmente, con sus amigos, y de esa forma aprendan a hacer la conexión de caras con nombres de sus compañeros de clase. Si mantenemos la cámara apagada, no nos damos cuenta quiénes son nuestros compañeros o quiénes son los maestros de nuestros cursos.
So now I'm going to share some tips that'll improve the on-camera experience for your child and perhaps even make it fun. The first tip is to position the light in front so that your child is well lit.
Bueno, ahora déjame darle unas sugerencias, sobre todo para ayudar cómo tener una mejor experiencia en frente de la cámara, e incluso vamos a hacerla un poco divertida. Uno de los primeros consejos es colocar una luz enfrente de su cara o que esté enfrente de usted para que la persona esté bien iluminada.
So you want to also avoid brightly lit backgrounds like an open window, because what this does is it causes your child to look like a dark silhouette.
Entonces, vamos también a evitar los fondos iluminados en la parte trasera de usted, ya sea que se ponga atrás de una ventana, porque lo que va a hacer es que el reflejo de la luz va a hacer una silueta oscura y no vamos a poder ver bien a su estudiante.
Placing the camera at eye level, that's always nice. You know, we don't want to get the view of looking up somebody's nostrils. So making sure that it's placed at eye level will give you a better appearance on camera.
Y bueno, vamos a hacer otro de los más, de las técnicas más importantes es que coloquemos nuestra cámara a la altura de nuestros ojos. No es muy bonito que estemos viendo a alguien a la nariz si la estamos viendo desde abajo. Entonces, acomode la cámara a nivel de los ojos para que nos veamos frente a frente.
Be aware of your background, remove any clutter, photos, or any other type of distractions, or perhaps any potentially inappropriate things for your classmates or your teachers to see. With this, you may consider setting up your space with, you can do setting up your desk where there's a blank wall behind you, you could hang up a sheet, or you could even add a virtual background.
Ahora tenemos que tener también en cuenta qué es lo que está atrás de nosotros, ¿verdad? ¿Qué fondo tenemos atrás? Vamos a tratar de quitar todo lo que esté desordenado y pongan ya sea una foto o cualquier otra cosa que pueda distraer o que sea inapropiado, ¿verdad? Para este entorno escolar, ya sea para sus compañeros de escuela o para los maestros. Yo creo que es muy importante considerar cómo configurar un espacio con una pared que esté en plano y blanca o detrás de usted o colgar ya sea una hoja de papel larga si es que lo necesita o agregar un fondo virtual que es divertido.
Here you see some different virtual backgrounds. So the first one that you see there is just a virtual background of a home space. The middle one, it's fun, it's colorful. And the one that you'll see to the far right is a little bit more professional. You could find a lot of these online, and some applications already have them available that you can just add. So you can always Google if you want to find out more about how to add a virtual classroom. There's a lot on Google that'll help you do that.
Bueno, y ustedes aquí están viendo cómo podemos hacer poner diferentes fondos virtuales. Hay uno que parece que estoy en una casa, de medio es algo divertido y colorido, tipo caricatura. El tercero a la derecha es un poquito más profesional. Yo creo que hay diferentes aplicaciones y lo puede usted buscar en Google, donde puede adquirir este tipo de fondos para que los pueda usar con sus cámaras. Y también dentro de Google hay información de cómo hacer este tipo de fondos y ponerlos en nuestras computadoras o aparatos.
So in addition to those tips and adding the virtual backgrounds, close unnecessary programs when you're in a live virtual meet. This also helps with connection. Check your audio, make sure your audio is good and clear. Mute when others are talking, and then always remember to unmute yourself. This is one that catches a lot of people. We start talking and then we forget to unmute. I do it a lot. So just remembering to unmute when you're called on. And those are just some helpful tips.
Bueno, también hay otros consejos. Por ejemplo, sería muy importante que tengamos en cuenta cerrar programas que no estamos usando o los que son innecesarios, porque esto limita ya sea la velocidad o la cualidad o la calidad de video que tengamos acceso en nuestros aparatos. Hay que revisar también el audio, que silenciar nuestros micrófonos cuando el profesor está presentando o cuando otros compañeros están hablando o se está compartiendo. Y también hay que activar el sonido cuando sea el momento adecuado.
And I'm just going to go over a few more tips that I'm going to share with you, but I'm going to breeze through them so that I can turn the time over to my colleague. Here's an inexpensive lighting solution. It's a ring light. You can find it on Amazon. It's about $10, but there's other things. So there are options out there.
Y bueno, les voy a continuar con unas sugerencias rápidas sobre tecnología que podemos utilizar para mejorar las presentaciones en línea. Aquí hay una solución que es económica para los problemas de iluminación. Por ejemplo, en la pantalla ustedes están viendo la fotografía de una luz en forma de aro que se puede encontrar en Amazon y se coloca enfrente de nuestra cámara.
Here you have a really good microphone. This is called the Blue Snowball. It provides really great sound quality. This one runs about $50 on Amazon. You can see there it's discounted, but there are a lot of different options out there that you could look into.
Y también este es un micrófono que de marca se llama Blue Snowball, que tiene una gran calidad de sonido. Sin duda hay otras opciones más económicas para un micrófono que usted puede encontrar. Esta cuesta como $50 en Amazon y solamente pues hay que buscar qué es lo que más le conviene a usted.
And then here we have next is a really good webcam. This is one that I personally use. It's the Logitech C390 HD. This actually has a built-in mic, so you wouldn't have to buy a mic with that. So this gives you the webcam and the mic together. But again, there are other options out there. You can look on Amazon or other vendors.
Y esta última es una muy buena cámara para utilizarla en línea. La marca es Logitech y también viene con un micrófono integrado, así que le va a proporcionar una gran claridad de video y también iluminación y buen micrófono.
And just a few tips to save time, save often. Make sure devices are charged each night. That's a biggie. Make sure devices have the latest updates. Make sure your child's saving their work as they go. That's also a big one. You know, sometimes we lose connection, lose power. So we want to make sure that we encourage our children to save their work as they're going.
Y bueno, ahora pues para que tengamos forma de guardar el trabajo y ahorrar tiempo, ¿verdad? Hay que recordar que tenemos que guardar nuestro trabajo diario. Vamos a tener que a cargar los aparatos todas las noches, a conectarnos. Hay que asegurarnos que los dispositivos tengan todas las actualizaciones necesarias. Considerar también que los auriculares con micrófono, donde podamos utilizarlo en nuestro espacio, no tengan interrupciones. Hay que asegurarnos que el estudiante siempre esté guardando su trabajo y de esta forma evitamos algunos de los problemas más comunes que se encuentran con los estudiantes en ambiente de aprendizaje virtual y también cuando ellos están trabajando, cuando están haciendo sus tareas, haciendo pruebas o en una reunión de video.
And here are just some keyboard shortcuts that can save a lot of time. These have been a huge time saver and lifesaver as well. One of the big ones I just want to point out, this presentation will be saved so you can access it later. You can also Google some of these shortcuts. But the Control F key to find, or the Control Z key to undo. Sometimes when your child's working, they hit a key and then it deletes everything. They can always hold Control and click on Z, and then it'll bring their work back. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and, after the translation, turn it over to Bill.
Y bueno, ya para terminar, los atajos o los códigos en el teclado pueden de verdad hacer nuestros héroes. Ellos nos ahorran muchísimo tiempo cuando estemos haciendo trabajos. Con estos atajos o códigos de teclado nos ayudan a hacer varias cosas. Por ejemplo, la más usada es la tecla control con la F para encontrar algo rápidamente dentro de la página. La otra clave o otro código es el control más la Z. Esto es por si acaso un estudiante por error borra algo y quiere regresarlo al documento y lo puede utilizar y regresa todo lo que ha escrito. Entonces, esto es muy ventajoso tenerlo y aprenderlo y tener estos códigos a la mano. Y ahora sigue Bill.
All right, thank you, Tracy. So technology is crucial in distance learning. Tech support can start at home, though. Let's talk about resolving some common technical issues my team commonly sees.
Bueno, y estos son, vamos a hablar sobre cómo solucionar los desafíos técnicos y esto es muy importante en el aprendizaje a distancia. Ustedes saben que algunas de las errores o de los problemas técnicos más comunes que se encuentran, las vamos a hablar en un momento.
So we'll get started with login issues. So one of the first things we need to make sure of when we can't log in is verify the username and password that we're using. It's a really good idea to have a paper with all your students' logins on it. It can follow your student with them, and this is especially helpful if their learning environment isn't always in the same place. Verify that you are trying to access the correct website with the correct information. It seems like at least once a day, I'm trying to log into Google with my Microsoft account. Note the error you're getting when you're unable to log into the site. The more specific you can be with the problem you're experiencing, the easier it is for our tech team to figure out the problem you're having. Pictures and screenshots of the problem you're having are also very helpful for the tech support.
Bueno, ahora hablando de los problemas de inicio de sesión y con sus dispositivos, si no puede conectarse a las herramientas virtuales como el Google Classroom o al Zoom, vamos a hacer varias cosas. Primero, verifiquemos que el nombre del usuario y la contraseña que está utilizando, estos sean los correctos. También tenga a la mano un papel o en un cuaderno anotado con todos los datos necesarios para los inicios de sesión de su estudiante. Y mantener este documento para siempre es muy importante porque puede seguir su estudiante tener acceso siempre. Segundo, verifique que esté accediendo al sitio web correcto. Muchas veces no sabemos si en realidad el estudiante está accediendo a la página que debe de ser. Y por último, escriba con detalles el error que usted recibe cuando no pueda conectarse a un sitio, ya que esto les va a ayudar al técnico a solucionar el problema y ver qué es lo que está pasando.
All right. And Dr. Romano, I'm going to cut a couple of these slides a little bit, so just to let you know.
Okay.
So next up, we'll be talking about troubleshooting connections. We do see students dropping from their online classrooms like Zoom or Meet once in a while. This will happen, so have the meeting link handy so you can rejoin the meeting as quickly as possible. Occasionally, verify your speed at sites like speedtest.net, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Checking your speed can help you understand if the problem is with your internet connection or something else. How many devices do you have connected to your network, and what are they doing? If everyone in the family is home and each person is watching their favorite Netflix show, this can slow the network down for students trying to connect to Zoom.
Bueno, cuando tenemos problemas de conexión, cuando se desconecte de sus aulas en línea como el Zoom o en Meet, esto puede hacer. Primero, tenga a la mano el enlace de sesión para que pueda volver a reunirse a esta sesión lo más pronto posible. Segundo, ocasionalmente verifique que la velocidad en los sitios como SpeedNet le estén dando la información necesaria sobre la velocidad. También hay que considerar el número de aparatos que estén conectados a su red y qué están haciendo cada uno de estos aparatos. Si tienen a varios aparatos conectados a la red al mismo tiempo y uno está viendo Netflix y otro está utilizando las computadoras o está jugando juegos o está haciendo otras cosas, escuchando música, esto reduce la velocidad y la capacidad de funcionar correctamente para que el estudiante pueda estar trabajando en el salón de clase.
So many websites offer speed tests. The easiest way to find one is to search for a speed test in your favorite search engine. My preference is speedtest.net. If you're having tech problems, being able to provide tech support with the results of this test can speed up the troubleshooting process.
Algo que para mí es muy importante es verificar las pruebas, con unas pruebas de velocidad, lo que está haciendo su computadora. La forma más fácil de encontrar es buscar en esta página que se llama speedtest.net. Este es una en su barra de búsqueda usted puede meter este nombre y lo que le va a dar es información técnica sobre los resultados de su aparato, ya sea qué es lo que que está usando más o qué velocidad está llevando o qué es lo que le hace falta con respecto a la velocidad.
So most of our devices connect to the network wirelessly these days. The access point is the device that your computer or tablet connects to get to the internet. Since our equipment uses radio waves to connect wirelessly, we have to consider some things that can interfere with those waves. Each wall that the wave has to go through degrades the signal. As we get farther from our access point, the signal is degraded. So making sure that your students are as close to the access point or router that you get from your internet company as possible will help provide a better learning environment. Is the microwave or oven on? This one sounds funny, but appliances that use a lot of power can interrupt the wireless and create a poor connection. Try not to have your access point and learning space cross the path of the kitchen. You also don't want to have your devices near the kitchen if it's being used while your kids are in class. Again, use speedtest.net to check your connection speed. We talked about a little bit or a couple of times earlier, and I know you're probably wondering what's the right speed when you do these tests. Well, according to Zoom, 3 megabits per second or faster is a good connection speed to Zoom for high definition connection. So you want to have at least a minimum of 3 megabits per second for a student. Obviously, if you have more kids than one, you'd want to make sure that speed is double that or triple it, depending on how many kids you have.
Y bueno, la mayoría de nuestros dispositivos se conectan a la red de forma inalámbrica, ¿verdad? Entonces, el punto de acceso de nuestros dispositivos que se conectan hacia el ordenador o la computadora, la tableta o el teléfono portátil, nos ayuda, son importantes para que tengamos acceso a la Internet. Dado que nuestro equipo utiliza ondas de radio para conectarse de forma inalámbrica, tenemos de verdad que considerar algunas cosas que pueden interferir con estas ondas o con la señal. Primero, tratemos de ver cuántas paredes hay alrededor porque estas interfieren con la conexión. También hay que ver qué tan lejos está el acceso de la señal a donde están nuestros aparatos. A más lejos se deteriora, si hay muchas paredes se deteriora, entonces tenemos que ver qué es lo que hay alrededor de nosotros. Muchas veces si estamos cerca de la cocina tiene bloquea o disminuye el acceso. Y esto es una forma divertida. Si el microondas o el horno en la cocina está trabajando, esto va a tener mucho que ver cuando nuestros aparatos no estén funcionando correctamente, ya que ellos toman mucha energía y pueden interrumpir la conexión inalámbrica y crear una de verdad mala conexión. Entonces hay que tratar de quitarnos del acceso a la cocina, ver en los espacios de aprendizaje que estén mejor, que estén fuera o cerca de la cocina. También tenemos que ver que la velocidad, como ya les había mencionado, el speed set para comprobar la velocidad de su conexión es muy importante y vemos qué tipo de velocidad requerimos para nuestras sesiones. Por ejemplo, lo mínimo que necesitamos para los participantes de Zoom son el 3.0 megabytes por minuto. ¿Y qué es lo que nos está dando nuestros enrutadores o nuestros sistemas de Internet en casa? ¿Y qué es la diferencia? Muchos productos vienen con gigahertz de 2.4 y otros de 5 gigahertz. cuál es el mejor. El 2.4 gigahertz es más lento, pero tiene un mejor alcance a distancia. Lo que son los 5 gigahertz es mucho más rápido, pero no tiene la distancia como el otro, o sea, no puede alcanzar o atravesar objetos. Entonces, es importante de entender o comprender cómo funcionan las dos bandas para poder ayudarle a solucionar los problemas si está limitado a solo uno de ellos.
All right, we talk a little bit about security. We always want to use a router to connect your devices to the internet. Most service providers provide a router when you install your service, and you can call and ask them if you're not sure. With my service at home, I had to purchase a router. So the router is the equipment that keeps people from accessing your devices on your private home network while allowing your devices to go where they need to go on the internet. So something that you want to do on that device is change the default password on the router if it hasn't been done already. A good password should be at least 8 characters long, have a number, lower and uppercase letters, and at least one special character like the @ symbol. Antivirus software is also something that we recommend. This is an added layer of protection on your device. Stores like Best Buy can walk you through the options. There's many out there and many free ones. And be careful of sites that offer content for free. At these sites, be careful of the link you click to download the items with and ignore and close the pop-ups. So with that, pay close attention to pop-ups on sites and read them thoroughly before accepting. Before you hit that OK button on the pop-up, read what it's doing. In most cases, you can use the X in the corner of the window to shut it down safely. And then be cautious when entering personal information into websites. Don't share information with any website unless you intentionally went to that site to give them your information.
La seguridad. Utilice siempre un enrutador para conectar sus dispositivos a la Internet. La mayoría de los proveedores de servicios proporcionan un enrutador cuando instala su servicio. Vamos a llamarlos y preguntarles si usted no tiene la seguridad de esto. En respecto al servicio de Bill, dice que él tuvo que salir a comprar un router o un enrutador porque no venía cuando él pidió la internet. Entonces, el enrutador es el equipo que evita que las personas accedan a los dispositivos de su red privada, mientras permite que su dispositivo que vaya a donde sea sin ningún problema. El router ayuda a mantener a las personas que usted no quiera fuera de su internet. También es importante que cambie su contraseña que ya viene predeterminada en la interfase en el routador y también puede hacer que cambie esta señal. Le recomendamos que al menos tenga 8 caracteres de largo mínimo, tener un número y, por ejemplo, una letra minúscula o en combinación de mayúsculas y por lo menos un carácter especial como la arroba o el signo de peso, de dólar o de porcentaje. También es importante tener un antivirus y tenga mucho cuidado cuando usted vaya a entrar a la internet de forma gratuita, ya que hay muchos sitios que tienen acceso fácil, pero no sabemos a dónde nos están llevando. Entonces, tiene que tener mucho cuidado y cerrar las ventanas que estén apareciendo, los pop-ups que se ven, que así como anuncios rápidos. Con esto es muy importante que no vaya a presionar ninguna de estas ventanillas, ciérralas lo más pronto posible y antes de acceder a cualquiera uno de los lugares que esté en la internet, por favor lea con atención todo lo que está en la página y no meta información a donde no quiera que sea compartida. Tenga cuidado, por ejemplo, al acceder a información como su nombre, cosas personales y no comparta nada de esta información en la internet o ningún sitio de la web, al menos que usted lo haya hecho con intención para poder proveer su información. Mientras tanto, tenga mucho cuidado y preste atención.
All right, the best way for you to make sure you and your student are safe is to educate yourself on the internet and its proper use. Commonsense.org provides some excellent content, including short clips you can watch with your students to help better understand the do's and don'ts when using the internet and the technology that accompanies it. If you would like to have visibility into what your student is doing on the internet or control their time of use as well as where they go, MeetCircle.com provides a fairly inexpensive solution to do that. You install a piece of equipment on the internet connection in your home, and then you can use your smartphone to monitor and control access for each device in your home. There are other options, but I wanted to share one that my staff use and thought would be easy to implement.
También hay otra forma de mantener la seguridad con la información. Es, por ejemplo, commonsense.org proporciona un contenido excelente. Incluye videoclips cortos que puede usted ver con sus estudiantes para entender mejor lo que puede o no puede hacer dentro de la internet y la tecnología que lo acompaña. Otra, si quiere ver o tener visibilidad a lo que su estudiante está haciendo en la internet o mantener un control a su tiempo o así con acceso a diferentes páginas web, usted puede ir a meetcircle.com y estas páginas le van a proporcionar una solución que es bastante barata para tener este control. Usted instala este software o este equipo de conexión a su internet y esto lo puede hacer en casa y usando su teléfono inteligente puede monitorear y controlar el acceso a cada uno de los dispositivos que tenga en casa y que sus estudiantes o sus hijos estén usando. Hay otras opciones, pero solamente quería compartir estas dos que yo uso personalmente y pensé que serían fácil de implementar.
We are actually 20 minutes over time with this session. So I would like for us to halt and quickly transition to the secondary school session with Dr. Claymore and Dr. Romano. So that we'll be able to catch up with our time. And whatever is left, Tracy and Bill, we can catch it up during the question and answer time.
You got it.
All right, thank you. Dr. Klima?
Bien, bienvenidos.
Muchas gracias. Vamos a transicionar a nuestra sección y lo que terminemos de la tecnología la haremos al final en la sección de preguntas y respuestas. Y la doctora Climo, yo soy la doctora Romano.
I'm Dr. Klimo, and I'm thrilled to share learning tips and information for teens and families. I have 20 years experience as a middle school and high school English teacher, and now prepare our teacher candidates to work with your adolescents.
Y yo soy la doctora Jacqueline Romano y también tengo 20 años de experiencia enseñando a los aprendices de inglés, maestra bilingüe y preparadora de futuros maestros bilingües.
Parents play a pivotal role in their teenagers' academic success, regardless of how instruction is delivered. You are your children's learning role models.
Y ustedes, pues son los padres, como padres juegan un papel muy importante en el éxito académico de sus adolescentes, sin importar de qué manera es impartida la instrucción. Ustedes son los mejores modelos para sus hijos.
Social distancing is very difficult for our adolescents, and part of that has to do with the teenage brain. Right now and during adolescence, which is middle school and secondary, the brain is growing at a huge rate and creating gaps between their thoughts and their emotion, and it fuels adolescents' risk-taking and friend-obsessed behaviors. during these times, students are very sensitive and more aware of how others are thinking and feeling. And this is a time when they really learn about collaboration, reciprocity, loyalty, and how to give support from their adolescent friendships. So in this social distancing world that we're in, our students are actually struggling because their brain is struggling to process everything that's happening to them.
Bueno, para los adolescentes, el distanciamiento social es difícil de mantener durante este tiempo. Durante la adolescencia, nuestros estudiantes aún siguen creciendo y su cerebro también. Él está creciendo muy rápido y madurando de una forma muy veloz. Dentro de este crecimiento hay huecos o se crean espacios entre lo que es sus pensamientos y sus emociones que le llevan a iniciar conductas de alto riesgo y obsesiva por los amigos. Es por eso que siempre quieren tener la ayuda de los amigos. Los adolescentes son muy sensibles y son más conscientes de cómo piensa y qué es lo que sienten los demás. Entonces se preocupan por los demás y necesitan estar conectados. Los jóvenes aprenden a dar apoyo, a colaborar, a corresponder durante este tiempo de la secundaria y preparatoria. También aprenden a ser leales y a hacer amistades por medio de la interacción con sus amigos de su misma edad.
So some general things to think about now that we know that there are some physical reasons and cognitive reasons why students struggle during this period of isolation is to be patient and find out what works for you and your teenagers. Discuss your level of engagement with them. Remind them to start assignments and complete on time, and connect these skills with future success in college and the workplace. Use adolescents' tech savvy to make the most of the digital forms of communication. Be creative in structuring the day. Allow students to sleep a little longer because their growing brains need this. Schedule breaks and try to help them chunk the learning. And be realistic about just how much can be accomplished when learning remotely and what you and your family can do to support your teenager.
Con los consejos que le damos es que sabiendo que hay un crecimiento físico y psicológico muy importante durante esta etapa, le pedimos que sea paciente. Determine qué es lo que está funcionando para usted y su adolescente. Platique con sus hijos qué nivel de participación es requerido para cada uno. Haga recordatorios que ayuden a sus estudiantes para empezar y terminar sus tareas a tiempo. También haga conexiones de este aprendizaje con el futuro, ya sea en la universidad y en el trabajo. Utilice el conocimiento tecnológico de sus adolescentes para tomar ventaja de los modos digitales de comunicación. También utilice la creatividad al estructurar su día. Por ejemplo, permita que los estudiantes duerman y que descansen un poquito más. Organice los horarios y divide el aprendizaje de partes manejables. Haga división durante el día. Sea una persona realista con las expectativas de aprendizaje diarias con respecto a qué cantidad de trabajo se puede abarcar durante el día mientras se aprende a distancia. Es muy difícil mantener el mismo ritmo que se llevaba antes. Entonces, usted y su familia también digan qué es lo que pueden hacer para ayudar a su estudiante.
So one of the important things that you can do to help your child during this period is to set clear boundaries. We really need to teach our adolescents during this time how to organize and problem solve so that we're fostering their independence. So finding that balance between providing just enough support while maintaining that challenge. And then slowly as the year progressed, kind of pull back on that support. Try to hold your teen accountable for this the same way that you would during face-to-face instruction during the regular school year, and enforce rules and yet allow virtual hangouts and collaboration. So again, it's finding that balance where students can continue to interact with their peers, but at the same time be safe and secure and follow whatever rules you would normally have in place for them.
Establezca límites claros. Enseñe destrezas de organización y soluciona problemas que promuevan la independencia. Esta es la etapa donde ellos tienen que aprender estas destrezas. También es muy importante encontrar un balance para proveer apoyo suficiente a nuestros estudiantes y quite ese apoyo gradualmente y de consejos o retroalimentaciones as necesario y a la revisión de los trabajos cuando se necesite. Entonces, balancear las reglas y la responsabilidad de padres con los hijos. También es importante que haga responsable al estudiante de la misma manera que lo haría si el estudiante fuera a la escuela como cualquier otro día. Reafirme las reglas y al mismo tiempo permita que haya colaboración con amigos y que tenga reuniones o sesiones virtuales, ya que como hemos dicho antes, la interacción con amigos es muy importante durante esta etapa de crecimiento.
Help your child or help your teenager get organized. Use a paper or digital planner such as Google Calendar or Whiteboard to keep track of schedules, assignments, teacher office hours, due dates, and group study sessions. Help students plan a work schedule for completing learning tasks. And use Google Drive and Gmail to organize copies of computer work, teacher emails, and files of assignments.
Y también, además de mantener el balance, la organización es muy importante. Ayudemos a nuestros estudiantes a que mantengan todo lo que es necesario. Por ejemplo, utilicemos un cuaderno o ya sea un calendario digital o organizador digital, ya sea como el Google Calendar, o en un pizarrón blanco, anotar, mantener todo en orden y todas las fechas e información que sean importantes. Por ejemplo, pongan los horarios, las tareas que son importantes a entregar en esta semana o cuándo van a entregar lo más pronto posible. Las horas de oficinas del maestro, las fechas importantes de escuelas, de juntas, de sesiones donde se van a reunir los estudiantes para estudiar. Use también ya sea un cuaderno o un organizador digital para planear el horario de trabajo y determinar las tareas. Póngale horario, a qué horas entra y a qué horas sale, por decirlo así. Utilice la plataforma de Google Drive y el de Gmail para organizar las copias de trabajo que ya se han terminado, para ver lo que se ha entregado por correo electrónico, lo que viene del profesor y hacer nuestros folders o carpetas de tareas.
And of course, it's important, and you've heard this in the earlier session, to make that space for learning. Find a comfortable, quiet, organized space that's dedicated for learning, where they can keep the noise and the distractions to a minimum. And allow your teens to use their AirPods, sit on an exercise ball, or stand at their desk. This is part of that adolescent brain. They need to move around and squirm around. And try different settings for learning. Allow them maybe to work outside on a nice day.
Bueno, yo creo que ya hemos repetido esto varias veces. Hacer un espacio en casa para el aprendizaje es de suma importancia. Entonces, mantengamos un lugar donde se esté callado, confortable, organizado y dedicado al estudio. Mantenga el nivel de ruido y las distracciones al mínimo. Permita también que los estudiantes o sus jóvenes utilicen sus audífonos, se mantengan sentados o parados enfrente de su escritorio si así lo desean. Ellos necesitan estar confortables para hacer y asistir a clases. Entonces, sentado, parado o sentado en una bola o una pelota está bien. Los audífonos son importantes ya que les ayuda a concentrarse, recordemos eso. Y permita que los estudiantes utilicen diferentes lugares para aprender. Por ejemplo, hay estudiantes que les gusta sentarse afuera en el patio. Quizás otros quieren estar encerrados en la recámara o cerca de alguien. Deje y acomode y dé prioridad a estos espacios.
And then we really want our teens to encourage their communication. Again, they're struggling because this is how this is a time when they're developing their identities. So help a teen schedule one-on-one time with teachers and or counselors. Meet their teacher over Zoom or phone to discuss any problems or questions, and encourage your teen to be very specific when asking for assistance. Encourage your teen to show up every session, even when the session is optional, and encourage your teen to check the email more than once a day. It's urgent to stay in touch during this virtual environment.
Durante esta etapa de crecimiento, el desarrollo de la identidad es muy importante. Es por eso que les recomendamos que fomente la comunicación. Los estudiantes deben de hacer, por ejemplo, una cita con sus maestros y consejeros para que puedan comunicar sus necesidades personales y académicas. Reunirse con sus maestros por medio del Zoom o por teléfono para que tengan clarificación a tareas, a trabajos o cualquier otro tipo de pregunta o problema que se encuentren. Ellos también necesitan ser muy específicos cuando necesiten ayuda. ¿Qué es lo que van a pedir ayuda? ¿Para qué? Ser específicos, tienen que aprender a decirlo. Es también muy importante el fomentar el que asistan a clases a cada sesión, y aun cuando estas sesiones sean opcionales, recordemos de que eso es por su beneficio y para el mejoramiento de su aprendizaje. Checar sus mensajes de correo electrónico una vez al día es muy importante. Los profesores, los maestros escriben a diario, a lo mejor dejan tareas y si el estudiante no checa el correo electrónico de la escuela, va a perderse mucho de las tareas o de la información importante. Es necesario mantenerse en contacto en el ambiente virtual y poner atención a todos estos consejos.
Adolescents need to collaborate often. Encourage your teenager to reach out to classmates and set up virtual study groups. Maybe set up a Zoom lunch table and take time to stay in touch with friends and classmates. Allow them to use message boards, email, and or text to contact classmates and make plans to keep each other accountable for meeting deadlines, assignment deadlines, and completing work.
También es aconsejable que hagan el esfuerzo de colaborar de forma más frecuente. Los adolescentes, por ejemplo, pueden pedir ayuda a sus compañeros de clase para establecer grupos virtuales de estudio, establecer sesiones de Zoom durante el almuerzo y tomarse el tiempo para estar en contacto con sus amigos o compañeros de clase. También contactar a sus compañeros de clase por medio de mensajes de texto, correo electrónico o tableros de mensajes para hacer planes, para hacerse responsables del uno al otro, mantenerse en contacto y al tanto de las fechas para entregar y acabar las tareas juntos.
And of course, monitor their engagement. As you heard, encourage your teen to use the camera when attending Zoom classes. They will get more out of class if they interact with their teachers and peers.
Y también, monitoreo de participación es muy importante. Anime a sus jóvenes a usar la cámara, tenerla prendida cuando asistan a clases por medio de Zoom. El beneficio, ya lo habíamos mencionado, es mayor cuando ellos interactúan con sus maestros y sus compañeros. Entonces, por favor, recuérdenles que mantengan la cámara encendida.
And here we have some free learning resources, and the last column is some websites to help you with resources and things that you can do with your adolescent during these unusual times for learning.
Y por último, les queremos proveer una lista de recursos para el aprendizaje gratuitos a nivel secundaria, preparatoria y también para enfatizar en la lectura y la escritura. Todos estos tienen acceso por medio de la internet y pueden ustedes libremente adquirir acceso usando sus aparatos móviles. Muchas gracias. Y hemos concluido nuestra sesión. Thank you very much, Dr. Klibo.
And I'd like to turn things over. Thank you so much for being with us. And I'm going to now pass the mic over to my colleagues, Dr. Greg Richardson, Dr. Sang Nam, and of course, Dr. Jacqueline Romano for translation.
Thank you. Y ahora vamos a pasar al doctor Gregory Richardson y al doctor Sang Nam, que nos van a hablar con respecto a la educación especial.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming back. I'm Dr. Greg Richardson, and my co-presenter is Dr. Sang Nam. He's going to speak to you in a moment. But we're going to talk to you about supporting children with special needs and distance learning in collaboration with teachers. Dr. Romano?
Yes, I was waiting for the PowerPoint in Spanish, but it's okay. All right. Apoyando a esta sección se va a dedicar a explorar el apoyo a las necesidades especiales en el aprendizaje a distancia con colaboración con maestros.
What we're going to talk to you about on this afternoon is basically the learning environment, how to collaborate with teachers, some learning strategies, assistive technology, and give you a couple of resources.
Vamos a los objetivos de la presentación va a ser cómo crear un ambiente de aprendizaje en el hogar, cómo y con qué colaborar con los maestros, estrategias de aprendizaje, tecnología de asistencia y recursos que podemos compartir con ustedes.
The learning environment, Dr. Nam.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Nam from the Special Education Program in the College of Education. Children with special needs requires structured learning environments and clear boundaries of home environment. Particularly, children with autism require a workstation where they are less distracted and can focus on the tasks they are assigned to do. In the workstation, they can perform reading, art activities, and quizzes or matching activities, etc. In the workstation, they know what they need to do. They have no anxiety and less stressful about learning activities in a workstation. And children with autism have two kinds of times, too much time and too little time. They need a daily schedule and routines and boundaries of home environments. They must understand that there are routines to follow. There are activities and tasks they have to complete daily. There are places they have to perform those activities and tasks. For example, 7 a.m. breakfast in the dining room, 7:30, helping dishwashing in the kitchen, 8 a.m. physical activities, 9 a.m. Go to the workstation, etc.
It's very important to consider the temperature, particularly for students with special needs. If they're uncomfortable in the learning environment, they will not do as well as anyone would like them to do. Temperature, if it's cold, it's good for them to dress in layers. That way they can take off sweaters, jackets, sweatshirts as need be so they can be most comfortable. The learning environment itself, their learning platform, there's an effect with the temperature there. Sometimes it can get overheated. You can actually purchase cooling pads very expensively, some for as little as $20. that would help keep the media device that they're using cool so they can function at its optimistic ability. The environment, some students like it when it's noisy, some students like it when it's quiet. Make sure you understand how your child likes to have the learning environment. The family plays an important role in what the students actually do. So sometimes individuals coming in and out of the room can be distracted to the child that has special needs. That's very important to make sure that you provide the environment that can help them learn best. Electronics, it was mentioned earlier by my colleague that it's important to make sure that the microwave oven and other things like this are not on because they affect the transmission that the students have. Sometimes even having their device showing their picture can cut down on the transmission. So make sure they communicate with the teacher, let the teacher know that they're having difficulty so they can have the environment that's best for them to learn. Continue, please.
Gracias. El ambiente, vamos a hablar sobre el ambiente para el aprendizaje de nuestro estudiante en educación especial. Es muy importante que tengamos una estación de trabajo específica para este estudiante. Los muebles que tengan la altura precisa y que tengan el nivel de confort necesario para ellos. La ubicación es muy importante, ya sea que tenga una esquina o haya un cubículo o una área designada para que el estudiante pueda mantenerse confortable haciendo su trabajo del día. Para cualquier actividad que vaya a realizar el estudiante, ya sea lectura, tareas, él tiene que saber o ella tiene que saber qué es lo que se debe de hacer durante el día. Tratar de que tenga una rutina en la cual, sabiendo qué es lo que va a ver durante el día, reduce el estrés. Por ejemplo, los niños que tienen autismo o padecen de funciones de atención, hay veces que tener mucho tiempo o el poco tiempo para ellos es difícil de organizar. Entonces, si les ponemos limitaciones o les ponemos horarios y rutinas, ellos van a integrarse sin ningún problema y van a poder mantener este horario para hacer sus cosas. Buscar un lugar en casa que se sientan confortables y tener un horario muy bien establecido, por decir, a la mañana, a las 7 de la mañana tienen su desayuno, a las 7:30 ayudan con algunas tareas en la cocina, a las 8 ayudan a recoger, a las 9 empiezan las clases. Mantener ese horario es muy importante. Otro es la temperatura. La temperatura del cuarto donde se encuentre tiene que afecta mucho cómo se comporta el estudiante. El calor o el frío los afecta. Entonces es recomendable que utilicen ropa adecuada dependiendo al clima y también que mantengamos de una forma de la tecnología no tenga ningún problema, es mantener un ambiente que esté fresco. Es muy importante, como lo habían mencionado los otros participantes, la tecnología también sufre con el calor, entonces tratar de mantener los cuartos frescos. La tranquilidad del espacio es muy importante. Si hay familia alrededor y distracciones, es difícil para el estudiante que se concentre. También los aparatos electrónicos que hay alrededor pueden distraer al estudiante. Aunque hay muchos estudiantes que prefieren un poco de ruido para poder hacer sus tareas, mientras otros requieren de un silencio total. Es sabiendo qué es lo que desea el estudiante y las distracciones tienen que reducirse. Entonces, eso es lo que recomendamos, es mantener al estudiante en un ambiente que sea confortable.
Okay.
How to collaborate with teachers.
Yeah,
Yes.
we talk about collaboration with the teachers. COVID-19 actually providing opportunities too. So collaboration with the teacher is one of the opportunities. Basic premise for the collaboration is that your teacher needs your helps, and you also need your teacher's helps to facilitate the child's learning. Your teacher needs to know your home environment. Okay, each home has different places, such as a living room and kitchen, study room, a workstation, backyard, etc. So teachers can help you plan home learning activities. Okay, the teacher also need to know the child's daily schedule and routines and activities taking place at home. For example, reading a social story in the workstation and scholastic learning program in the living room, and stretching routines in the backyard and cooking in the kitchen, etc. And I like to emphasize the importance of cooking. Cooking is important. It involving collaboration and working with someone else. And cooking makes a person independent. And cooking for someone else, and it involves the reading and measuring and purchasing and waiting too. And also a transformation of materials. Okay. And teachers also need to know teachers also needs parents' input about target behavior. A target behavior is a behavior that is not present, but you and your teacher want to see in the future. A target behavior must be related to the child's IP goal. And parents need to be aware of those target behaviors and how well your child is performing on those target behaviors. How many words he can independently read in a social stories. And then if it is cooking, what steps the child independently can perform those steps in the cooking. Dr. Romano.
Yes, gracias. ¿Cómo colaborar con los maestros? Bueno, es muy importante tener en cuenta el ambiente y el lugar del hogar. En este momento es más importante tener un canal abierto de comunicación con los maestros, porque tanto usted necesita del maestro como ellos necesitan de usted para poder realizar el plan de estudios individualizados de su hijo o de su hija. Entonces la colaboración debe de ser mutua y en esta debe de proveer con precisión qué son las rutinas que ustedes lleven en casa. Por ejemplo, también decir qué es lo que necesitan ayuda. Más que nada, para que nuestros estudiantes sean exitosos, por ejemplo, el maestro debe saber qué es el entorno de su hogar, cómo está organizado su horario, para que entonces el maestro pueda realizar y desempeñar también un plan de estudio que se pueda unir a su rutina y a las actividades diarias que usted hace. También es importante saber a dónde van a hacer los trabajos los estudiantes. Si tiene un horario especial para que el estudiante se sienta a leer o pueda ir al comedor a hacer tareas o a la sala o en la recámara o en un lugar específico donde él pueda o ella pueda hacer su tarea. Esto deben dejárselo saber al maestro. También hay que saber cuáles son los niveles actuales de rendimiento del estudiante para ver a qué nivel se puede seguir avanzando o hasta qué punto uno debe de llevarle el límite de aprendizaje. Entonces, es importante que el maestro sepa que usted le diga qué es lo que lo que su hijo necesita para que puedan manejarse a precisión las conductas y alcanzar las metas que se han hecho dentro del plan de estudios individualizado, ¿verdad? Ser preciso a tal punto de decir que si hay una conducta específica que se debe realizar, se especifica a lo que debería hacer, cuánto trabajo de lectura se debería hacer y, por ejemplo, qué pasos debe de seguir un estudiante si se está aprendiendo a cocinar. Entonces van a ser muy específicos con usted y usted con los maestros a qué son las necesidades de cada uno.
Michael, would you go back to the previous slides? I'd like to add a little bit more. Okay, thank you. Okay, your teacher also needs someone who is next to the child to provide cues and prompts for target behaviors. Okay, children, particularly children with autism, require prompts for their target behavior. Without prompts, you will not see the child's target behavior. Prompts come with different forms, physical and verbal signs and pictures and written and gesture and pointing, etc. Okay, teacher can provide a verbal and a signal prompts, but teacher cannot provide physical prompts. So you need to help your teachers by providing prompts, right? And your teacher needs someone who can deliver rewards for the target behaviors. Rewards come with different forms. It can be, edible activities and tangible and sensory and social and etc. Okay, you and your teacher need to find out inventories of primary rewards that are naturally available in a home environment. If you can understand and your child can understand, introduce a token system together with those primary rewards. Your teacher can help you set up a token system that can be used at home. Okay. Why do many children misbehave and not following your instruction? Because their behaviors are not guided by prompts and not followed by proper rewards. Okay.
Bueno, los niños con autismo necesitan de forma muy precisa, ¿verdad? Información que refiera a qué conducta deben de seguir, ya sea física, ya sea auditiva, tener notas exactas o darle información específico de lo que tiene que hacer el estudiante y cuando el estudiante cumpla con la conducta que se está esperando, se le dé los premios, se le anime, se le aplauda, ¿verdad? El esfuerzo que se ha llevado. Si no se tienen un sistema de premios, es difícil de que el estudiante pueda realizar la conducta. Entonces es importante también dejar de saber a los maestros dentro de su casa qué es lo que hay para que puedan realizar las tareas y qué tipo de premios puedan dar dentro de la casa. El sistema de premios es muy importante para mantener la conducta o alcanzar la conducta que se requiere y vemos que si los estudiantes no se comportan como se está esperando, es porque a veces el premio o el ánimo a la conducta no es clara. Entonces hay que mantener esa comunicación con los profesores.
Learning strategies. While we are looking at adolescent students and children that are in high school, we have to consider that our senses play an important role in our academic ability to ascertain information. Hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. For the sake of time, I'm just going to mention just one of them, smell. Think of how important smell is to your ability to taste food. Smells. As special educators, we've come to learn that colognes and perfumes, body soap, body wash rather than soap sometimes can affect a child's ability to concentrate on the content material. So be cognizant of the fact that too much sensation, smell-wise, can affect their ability to learn negative-wise. Learning styles. It's important to identify your child's learning styles. Everyone learns differently. And when you identify your child's learning style, particularly as their first teacher, you, the parent, can help them better succeed academically. There's auditory. Some students learn best when they hear things. Many learn the ABCs like this. Different sounds help them learn things. Music helps them learn things. Then there's visual learners. These individuals have to see things. They have to see the charts, the graphs, the pictures, and so forth. Your tactile learners, kinesthetic also. These individuals have to touch things. It's very important for them to find out how they learn so you can help them learn. Teaching at home is just as important as it is as teaching in the classroom. And as a facilitator, as a teacher, to help your child learn, you have to understand that it's so important to help your child in these different areas. You have your global learners. These individuals, they just pick things up. They're very spontaneous. They can learn something quickly. Your analytical learners, those are your thinkers. They're sequential, logical, and they have to see the pieces put together. Then, of course, we have social. Those individuals have to be amongst their peers. Matter of fact, that since we're in this virtual environment, one way that they connect with their peers is to give them an opportunity to have a Zoom meeting, maybe once or twice a week, or however you decide to have it, where they can just talk with their playmates. It's so important. I just heard recently from one of my granddaughters that she had a teacher that actually had a meltdown because she was trying to teach the lesson, and all the students that were in the class, about 30 of them, and she only saw 3 individual students. The rest, she just saw their names, and she just couldn't handle it. It was just a disconnect for her. So we want to make sure that we do connect and provide that type of opportunity where the social element is actually met. And then you have the solitary learners. These individuals learn alone. In a high school, I remember one particular student, he could not do well in the classroom. At the time, I was an assistant principal, so we worked out something for him to have a program through Options for Use where he can actually learn at home, and he actually graduated a year ahead of the time that he was scheduled to graduate. So learning strategies are very important. We have diverse learning strategies. When you think of things such as how to memorize things, learn things, there are mnemonics. Many people that have played instruments learn that on the treble clef, the letters, the identified, the spaces, you can just go up, F-A-C-E. For the other notes that are on the lines, you have every good boy does fine. Some people learn the planets like that. My very educated mother served us 9 pizzas. You can make up mnemonics by using the first letter of something that you want the child to learn. They memorize it first and then learn it. And the weirder it is that they come up with a story, the more likely they will remember it. So that's just an area of mnemonics. Repetition is so important. Special needs students need to hear something 3 times before they begin to retain it. Sometimes it's 5 times, so don't be afraid to repeat things over and over again. Chunking the material, rather than giving them material that's just allotted for 1 hour, break it up into 15-minute segments. It's been proven in some studies, for instance, that homeschoolers during this pandemic are actually learning best if they're in elementary school by just studying 1 hour a day. Middle schools, 2 hours a day. High school students, 3 hours a day. I know you might have a trouble understanding that, but it depends on what your child's ability is. For special needs students, the same stats indicate that it has to be cut in half. Elementary, 1/2 hour. What can your child learn in 1/2 hour? It has a lot to do with their ability to connect, just with learning strategies. Dr. Romano.
Oh, thank you. It's going to be a long one. Estrategias para el aprendizaje. Bueno, muy importante que tengamos en cuenta los diferentes sentidos. Hay que estimular los sentidos y la importancia de los sentidos durante este periodo es sumamente importante para el aprendizaje, ¿verdad? Muchos de nuestros estudiantes, por decirlo así, el olfato es algo de los sentidos que afecta el aprendizaje. Como muchos maestros saben, que el olfato, el olor a la comida, a los perfumes, al jabón, todo este perfume, ¿verdad? Puede afectar negativa o positivamente al estudiante. Muchas veces es negativamente con los estudiantes en educación especial porque les quita la concentración. Entonces hay mucho estímulo, hay mucha demanda de sensaciones y entonces eso distrae, ¿verdad? Las otras partes de los sentidos son ya sea los visuales, los estudiantes que utilizan mucho las imágenes, los sonidos, el tacto, ¿verdad? Y hablamos del gusto y los niños que aprenden las cosas globales. Es muy importante que como padres aprendamos a saber qué es el estilo de aprendizaje de nuestros hijos, identificar, saber qué es su modalidad para que entonces podamos ayudar y hacer las diferencias con el padre y con la maestra para el aprendizaje. Si hay niños que son auditorios o que utilizan mucho el oído, muchos estudiantes aprenderían fácilmente el abecedario con canciones, ¿verdad? Con rimas o repeticiones. Si nuestros niños utilizan mucho la parte visual o dependen mucho de la vista, por ejemplo, podemos ver que ellos pueden ver fotografías, pósters, cuadros, algo que estimule y ayude a procesar la información visual. Hay otros niños que que tienen aprendizaje de tacto y estos niños táctiles necesitan de tocar cosas, utilizar manipulativos, etcétera. También es muy importante, ¿verdad? Entender que hay niños que aprenden de forma global. Son niños que captan las cosas muy rápidamente y muchas veces ya estos están adelantados a lo que vamos a decir y tienen esa facilidad. Son niños que analizan todo, analíticos, y de esta misma forma tenemos que ser muy precisos a cuáles son las especificidades para encontrar lo que vamos a hacer con ellos, para ser muy específicos. Hay otros estudiantes que son sociales, ellos necesitan de la interacción de otros niños o con gente para que puedan procesar información. Y ahorita dentro de este periodo, bueno, yo creo que tenemos que hacer el esfuerzo para conectar a nuestros estudiantes por medio de las juntas de Zoom, ¿verdad? Ya lo habíamos hablado. Y también para que puedan jugar con sus amigos. Hay otros estudiantes que son, por ejemplo, los niños solitarios, aprenden por sí solos, solamente necesitamos entender ese estilo para proporcionarles con exacta información lo que ellos deben de seguir, ¿verdad? También memorizar, hay niños que aprenden por medio de la memoria. Usar técnicas de aprendizaje como memorizarse letras que tengan una conexión a una palabra o ideas, contar historias para que ellos puedan después manejar la información por medio de las canciones o ritmos es muy importante. La repetición es muy importante, es parte de las estrategias, repetirlo 3 a 4 veces o 5 más. No hay que tener miedo. También dividir las tareas por secciones, ya sea pequeñas, por pequeñas cantidades y por tiempo. Hay estudiantes que, por ejemplo, en educación especial en la primaria, 1 hora diaria de instrucción es mucho mejor que todo un día. Y en la secundaria 2 horas y en la preparatoria 3 horas, ¿verdad? Es tratar de modificar y de reducirlo, pero que sea constante, ¿no? Y demos tiempo para que nuestros estudiantes se conecten y socialicen al mismo tiempo.
I also had some effective learning strategies, but because of the time limit, I like to skip this.
Dice que como no tenemos tanto tiempo, vamos a saltarnos estas estrategias que han aparecido, tomar decisiones, preparación y los pedidos de alta probabilidad.
In light of the time that we have, I'm going to just briefly speak to video modeling. It's basically giving your child an opportunity to see something perform that they need to do. They have an example by watching a visual, whether it's on a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer. What we're going to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to transition over to our question and answers. The video will be available for you to view at a later time.
Bueno, ahora vamos a dar la oportunidad de ver este video o esta presentación va a estar puesta en la internet y vamos a proceder para cambiar a las preguntas que tenga el público.
I highly recommend the Center for Parents Information and Resources, a CPIR site for further information and resources and webinar on different topics.
Y recomiendo que visiten la página del Centro para Padres, Información y Recursos, el CPIR. Es una página de internet que tiene más estrategias y tiempo para que ustedes puedan ver más. ¿Hay algunas preguntas? If any questions that want to be answered, it's time for us to answer your questions. We'll be more than happy to respond. Estamos dispuestas a responder sus preguntas en el chat, por favor, si tienen alguna pregunta.
I know that some questions are already in the chat, so Jennifer is going to read them out. Dr. Richardson, you can help coordinate the questions.
Okay.
And we can direct them to whoever is going to answer them.
Okay, the first question from Madam B. This one is actually from our technology session. She said, not all computers accept virtual backgrounds unless you have a green screen, correct? And are the virtual backgrounds free in Google?
So
Oh,
go ahead, Bill.
So I posted a link in the chat, it's information directly from Zoom that talks about what the requirements are. Not all computers are capable of doing virtual backgrounds without green screen. It gets real choppy. So you do have to have a newer, faster computer to do a virtual background without a green screen. But with that, there are creative ways. I've seen students do creative things. They take an old sheet and do some artwork on it. I've seen they set up a learning space in their house, and then they actually decorate the wall behind them, and that kind of gives them a personalized background. So some ideas if you don't have a newer computer, and Chromebooks specifically cannot do virtual backgrounds.
A very simple one also is basically to take a green sheet, if you have one, just pin it up on the wall behind you.
Yep.
Also, just to keep in mind, depending on the platform, so you might want to do a little digging or maybe some research on Google. That's actually quite simple. But for example, Microsoft Teams, it has some built-in backgrounds already. So when you turn on the camera feature, there's typically a settings or like 3 little bubbles that you would click, and it would give you an option to input a virtual background, and then you can choose which one from the ones that they have available. Others are sometimes just simple images. So if you see the College of Education, Watson and Associate Literacy Center background that we all have, sometimes those are just JPEG images that you would add to your Zoom. So there are different ways to do that, but of course, a green sheet or some background for those that are not capable of adding that in.
Okay, the next question was from Katrina Johnson. With my Chromebook, I'm having trouble using speed test.
So another website that might work on, you shouldn't have any problems with a Chromebook, but it is technology and things don't always work right. So fast.com, and I'll put it in the chat. That's another, it's a very simple website, works very well. It might be another option you consider. That'll do the same thing for you. And then of course you can search Google for speed tests, and there's quite a few out there. You can test a few of them. It might be one that works better with your Chromebook.
Thank you. There was a question in Spanish asking about sharing the last 2 pages of Dr. Climo and Dr. Romano's presentation. We're going.
I already answered it, and I already answered to that person.
Okay, and just so everyone knows, we're going to be posting the video along with the PowerPoints on our website, and we'll be sending you them in an email as well.
Muchas gracias. Thank you. La presentación y las diapositivas van a ser puestas en nuestra página de internet, que van a ser compartidas después para que ustedes las puedan bajar y tener puedan acceder a esta información para aquellos que nos han puesto información en el chat de que quieren esta presentación. Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay, and I'm gonna skip one that just came in. It was a suggestion. You can use a green plastic tablecloth from the 99-cent store or Dollar Tree to create a green screen. So I know sometimes sheets are kind of expensive, bedding. And so that is a great option and a great suggestion. So thank you for sharing that, Hilda Alexander. And we have another question from Nancy Tapia Larios. Is there a quiz we can have our child take to determine their learning style?
Yes, there is. There are several quizzes out there. One is the Strengths Finder. You can purchase a book for about $10, and it has several learning styles in there. Another is the Venue. Oh, I'm drawing a blank right now. What I have to do, excuse me, what I have to do is put in the chat session because I can't think of the website right now.
Esto sería muy bien. That would be good to put the information.
I'll do that.
I'll share the references as well that are put in the chat. We'll send this to you in an email.
Sí.
And I think that suggestion with the green screen is actually really great. And also, I just wanted to let you know how quick and easy it is. If you do have the capability with Zoom, for example, if you, when you're actually in the meeting, you can add a variety of virtual backgrounds, their images. I showed my son this and he got really excited about adding his virtual background. And that was actually the motivational factor for him to turn his camera on. But you can see how quickly I can switch between different backgrounds. And so you can actually personalize your space and make your learning environment fun and a little bit different.
Thank you.
Dr. Romano, please don't forget to translate.
Oh, well, del background, la pantalla de fondo, ustedes pueden utilizarla utilizando la parte de el Zoom, donde dice video, para compartir el fondo virtual. Ustedes pueden adquirir varios fondos, ya sea bajándolos de la internet o fotografías que ustedes mismos utilicen y buscar donde dice la cámara, escoger la pantalla virtual y usted selecciona la fotografía que le parezca. Puede cambiarla tan fácilmente como lo estoy haciendo yo ahorita. Puede poner videos, etcétera.
And we have a hand raised from Robin Odell.
Yes, hi, great presentation. I just wanted to ask, my son is in junior high and he does have an IEP. I missed some of the special ed portion, but he does have an IEP. He's struggling right now. And right now the biggest thing is trying to keep him motivated, wanting to do it, because he just kind of like emotionally shuts down. He feels like it's too hard. Why even try when he's kind of at home by himself trying to do this without as much help as he would receive in class with other peers, peer modeling, being able to go through the sessions. So is there any tips or advice that you could give me to keep his motivation up, to help him feel confident and not want to shut down and motivated?
Yes, there is. First, I would suggest that you go to Google Advanced Search, not Google Search, but Google Advanced Search. You have 3 lines that you can put things on. The middle line is where you want to put the key thing. You can put the subject matter that he is actually studying. And then on the top line, you can put something like games. And you'll be surprised at the number of games that come up that show your child how to learn something, where he can have fun or she can have fun. You can also, on the third line, put the grade level. And so you can play around with Google Advanced Search and come up with a number of strategies. But that would be a big tool for you right there, Google Advanced Search. Secondly, I've already put in the chat session 2 apps that are helpful. One is Quizlet, and then the other is the Khan Academy. Those are 2 good sources that will help you.
Odell, your child is in high school, you said?
Junior high, 7th grade.
Junior high school. There might be 3 reasons for your child is not interested, shut down. You know, 3 reasons. First one might be he is not interested in those activities you're introducing because the activities or learning is not related to his life. So, you know, he need to be motivated by relatedness. So need to introduce some highly, relating activities. Second, he might has some anxiety or fear for the learning. He might have previous, failures. So he need to experience a lot of success experiences of success he needed. Okay, and then third one, he might have learned helplessness. If a person is in failure a long time, the person may develop learned helplessness. So his thinking is like this: oh, I did this. I've been doing this for a long time, but I have not successful. So again, he need a lot of success. All right. So one of the activities I can recommend is momentum. Okay, building momentum. So kind of easy and challenging task. So introduce some maintaining and interesting easy tasks, and then new activity and challenging task, something like that.
Another suggestion too would be to reach out to your school and to your child's teacher. Probably some of the lack of motivation is also coming from what I talked about with the adolescent brain. This is a real challenge for our students because they are isolated from their friends. And so much of their learning comes from being able to interact with their friends. And so reaching out to your child's teacher for some resources to help build the motivation, but then also maybe reaching out, having your student reach out to some classmates to set up a Zoom study group so that he can interact, or he or she could interact with their peers around the learning, and that might also stimulate some motivation to engage.
And remember, rather than extending the lesson out, maybe a 10-minute block or a 15-minute block would be adequate, just so he or she gets exposure. And I've also put into the chat session a couple of learning style websites where you can do the assessment free.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I hope I didn't miss anything. Please raise your hand if there's something I missed or something you can think of now.
If there are no more questions, I would like to thank our presenters, Dr. Climo, Dr. Romano, Dr. Richardson, Dr. Nam, Bill and Tracy. Thank you so much for the work. And thanks to Jennifer, Delphine, Andrea, and Michael, who all worked to make this happen. I want to thank our guests, Ted, Jim, and Judy Watson, Robert, and all the parents who came out to participate. We are very appreciative of your contribution, and we hope that this has been beneficial to you. As was mentioned, these will be posted on our website along with the PowerPoints. Feel free to go and watch it again, or let your friends who could not participate go to the website and access it. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye for now.